panel here, and we're all super excited. So without further ado, I invite the Prime Minister to kick this debate off. Here, here.
Mr. Speaker, we can never be knowing about something. So when we say that understanding about the problem and the situation as it is neutrally is the fundamental of solving some problem, knowing about the developing countries is a very gist of solving the problems we have between the developing countries and developed countries nowadays. Because there is a status quo where the significant problem is. First is about at the local level. At the local level, there is this extreme protectionist and nationalist movement winning a political power over the more liberal ideology. Because when you take into consideration of Donald Trump winning his power in the US, and in France where Marine Le Pen, who is the daughter of the politician who said there was no such thing as Holocaust, win over the other candidates and winning the conservative votes for her. When we say that, we can clearly see that Holocaust cannot never be negated by the one who have been inflicting it to the minority. This can be said that the more protectionist and nationalist movement is on the rise. At international level, there is a problem that as the refugee and immigration problem is on the rise, and there is ISIS getting the media coverage very extensively and widely, international citizens get the immediate impression for the certain demographic of our society. For example, they think of all the Arab and Muslim people to be terrorists, and this stereotype will be strengthened if they had no chance to actually meet them and experience them as they are in the neutral way. And another problem in this international status quo is that there are politicians and the activists working in the international level holding sway of the policies to be implemented to close the gaps between the developing countries and developed countries in making the world proceed and advance in the way. However, when they reach a consensus between which policies to make, they often have many conflicts because they have different understanding of the status quo and the environment and the country they would implement this policy to. For example, like poor countries can be very detrimental at the situation, but the rich countries can think of this as a sentimental pledge and do not agree to their contextualization of this. However, this lack of understanding is even more serious considering that these international institutions often have to reach unanimous decision to implement the policy. Because international policy requires many coverage and many people under its effect, it has a very strict form of decision making, which is unanimous decision. And these conflicts are lagging these policies to be implemented, and is having problem, for example, in UN poverty rescue, which has been delayed for more than a year after its initial proposal because they never met on the same page. This problem is inherent because these politicians just read about and learned from their lectures and classes in their own country about other environments and had lack of understanding. And even though they watch this video material or reading things, this cannot never close the gap between their understanding because what they learn from it is never experiencing and understanding it in a neutral way in an individual scope. And because if we just let the exchange students go abroad more and experience it as an exchange student, this can also be a problem because when we do not mandate it by the institute itself and let students choose where to go, students often resort to the rich countries because they want to have tourism and other wealthy experience along with their study abroad program. So having said that, our model of educational institution mandating students to be departed to the developing countries can actually solve this problem with a great solvency. Because, and thinking of the goal of the education institution, which is making the students understand the situation and tackle the future tackle the problems in the society as a future generation. This is very necessary in the status quo. So let me explain and prove to you how our model can be with very great solvency here. First of all, as I said, as experiencing daily life is very different. When a student is in the developing countries, they spend a lot of time, calculatively a lot in their time. So they live a life there, having spent more time. And unlike the old-fashioned books, which is never a timely manner and timely understanding of the thing, they will have the emotion and actions incorporated into their understanding of daily lives in a very timely manner. And what's more important in this situation is that they get to have an individual connection and meetings with the local people there. As they encounter the local people and experience them, they get to remove their stereotypes they initially get from the international media coverage. For example, I had this racist friend from France. So he was going to the Sciences Po, so that was the only reason he came to South Korea as an exchange student program, because Sciences Po actually mandate them to go to less rich countries within our society. And as he came to the Korea, although he was quite racist and he confessed himself that he was a racist, he met many friends who was welcoming and inviting and got to know that Korean people are not all very shy, or all the stereotypes are gone, and now he understands better about our society. And this can actually help him more, because as he's going to the Sciences Po, he may reach a certain point in his life where he can be a decision maker as a politician and would be having a better policy in dealing with the Korean situation. And second of all, this can actually incentivize people to know, study, and research about developing countries as well. Because even though we can learn something at least from the reading materials and media materials, it is very hard for people to naturally do that, because people do not want to study by themselves. However, this is a natural mechanism of incentivizing people to study and research about this. Because as I'm going to the international school, I was mandated to go to China and Japan for each 1 year and a half on a semester. And that was when I started studying Japanese language and Chinese language along with its cultures. And after this, I get to read more about this material even in my country. And when I went to the country myself, I get to know people in real life situations. And there was another point of growing a rapport between two countries. Because we have more understanding of each other, we can grow a rapport between developed countries and developed countries. This is also good for the people who stay in the developed countries, who's from the developing countries, because they are no longer shown as the weird culture, as the stereotype from the media presents them to be. And with this rapport, they can have also another bargaining chip to go on. Because at this, and this will be done by our second speaker, I'm very proud to propose.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Invite the Leader of Opposition to begin today's case with
Ladies and gentlemen, opening government must support what is mandatory, right? It's not the choices of individuals, but everyone must go to the university or work in developing country, even if they don't want to. They don't really want to refuse to go. That's their burden to prove why this is justified to send the restrict body autonomy of those people who hate to go or go, right? And we don't think that the efficiency is not enough explanation to prove this. And even if we think that the efficiency would not be so, would rather become worse in our side of the house, therefore we're proud to oppose this motion. First, I'm going to explain why the status quo, why mandatory is not necessary, i.e. that the organic chain is already occurring and how international level cooperation is actually proceeding. Second, I'm going to explain how some students cannot adopt the climate or like a culture in developing countries going to significantly gain the suffer from like i.e. like health issues or like mental issues. Third, if I have time, I'm going to explain the free choice or why we should respect body autonomy of those students. Okay, but other rebuttals integrated in my speech. First of all, but beforehand, yes.
Okay, so if one child thinks that a mask is not necessary in his right, so do you also agree that he doesn't have to study mask anymore?
Just say that again.
So if individuals think masks in any kind of substance are not necessary for their life, do you agree that they will oppose and maybe reject that kind of substance?
You're meaning like a compulsory education, is it? Right?
Not on compulsory.
Some of the culture you want to say. Well, the distinction I'm going to explain. There's a distinction about the curriculum and so on. Well, first of all, it does not restrict where you live, right? It's simply different from where you live. It's not restricted by actually a school or any authority, right? And we don't think that actually people had the right to choose where to move to, and that's why the school should not be that extent that to restrict where they choose to live, and that's the distinction. I'm going to explain it in my speech. Okay, so first of all, why this mandate is not necessary? Because we think that, well, first of all, like a globalization is already occurring, right? And they say that the nationalization is occurring, but it's still limited. Let's look at the fact, right? Like it's still like a globalization is much more significant power. It's like significantly like expanded, right? Like because of the like LCCs appearing, it's easier for people to move, or like necessary to expand the economical development, especially in developed countries, right? They want to actually cultivate a market in developing countries. That is why, like a lot of students who know that it's necessity of those important necessity. That is why they go to they join the cultural exchanges or becoming international students, and those numbers significantly increasing currently, right? And that is why the companies are trying to expand because of the company, like most of the company trying to go to the abroad. That's like a student who want to get good job, want to try to go there, right? And even if like nationalism to some extent there, we don't think that it's not going to be better off in their side of the house. So, first of all, next issue. How some students cannot adapt and gain significant support, right? Because we think that the people usually get used to where they're born, right? Like because they spend a lot of time and they get used to some cultures and some climates, right? And it's not everyone that can easily adapt some cultures. For example, cultures like in some places, even they have a choices, if they have a choices to choose like some among the developing country, in general, developing country has less technology, has less environmental protection, and that is why, like for example, sometimes air is not as clean as compared to like Japan or other developed country. Like when I go to Malaysia for joining MDO, but I actually gained some cough. Rather like I couldn't breathe well when I go back to Japan because of the air was not actually matching with myself. Furthermore, some people want to stay with family, right? They definitely want mother to lead themselves. The forcing forcing themselves to live alone, or even with students, actually significant suffer for those people, right? It actually makes trauma for those people because they are forcibly taken out to the foreign country where they don't get used to. It's like a culture shock, and the culture shock is not always all the time that people can overcome, right? And that is why people suffer from or trauma, or worst case is a nightmare continues for those people, right? And the worst case is that it's going to be counterproductive to achieve their goal. Why? Because to some extent we have to admit, like as they said, nationalism occurring because some people are xenophobia, right? They hate especially like developing countries because they have biases, right? And that's why because they have biases already, people believe that the biases that the bias they have already biases such as like developing country are not very hygiene, or like some of to they might believe or inferior on the soul, right? That kind of thing can be lead to the confirmation biases because they already have the biases already, and that's why it creates a narrative to counter for the cooperation they want to achieve. It just strengthens the biases, strengthens the narrative that that cooperation is unnecessary. That's why immigration policy is going to be stricter, or like a donation to developing country may going to reduce on their side of the house. So why free choice is important? Briefly, we don't think, as I said, that for answering the POI, we think that to some extent that the people to have a choice to where they live, right? And the individual knows where is the best places for their self, for their body. Therefore, we think that we should not restrict body autonomy of those individuals. Very proud to host.
Thank you, leader of the opposition. Invite the Deputy Prime Minister to reconstruct your government case. You're here.
Rebuttal. So when the leader of opposition came to the podium and said something about how people want to stay with their parents and they're getting used to, if they are used to the place where they're born in, all this kind of stuff, they were contradicting themselves in the first place when they were saying the students are going abroad and joining in a lot of cultural exchanges already, right? So those kind of points were contradictory. And secondly, when they said something about how people don't want to go to, even if they want to go to other countries, as they said, as a contradictory point, even if they want to go to other place, they don't want to go to developing countries because they lack technology or hospitals, all this kind of stuff. And she gave an example of a cough that she had in Malaysia. First of all, she is describing these developing countries as an extreme country where there is no source of things like hospitals or any basic necessities. These countries all have these basic supplies and stuff, so they can actually have it. And also, even if they don't, what we're saying is if we make this a legitimate program, if we make it as a legitimate program, the support for the adaptation for those students are going to be given because the developed countries are wealthy, first of all, so they can do that. And secondly, they're not going to be held, they're not going to stay irresponsible in those kind of situations. So they're going to give all those kind of support to those students so that their life is not so much as hazardous. And also, what they said, and also, even if this is not true, what we're saying is, if this is not such a significant harm on the students' rights, we have to do what is needed to do in order to give them education, right? So first of all, this is not about forcing them to do this or they die, right? If they don't do this, for example, they can actually step out from the education system. What we are doing is, if you're going to take part in this education system, which is a high education system, we are saying that we we want to make you a responsible, educated people who are not the right extremists or not nationalists, but who understands the people who are inside your country. First of all, the second generation immigrants, right? And secondly, the people who are outside of country, who are in different contexts to where you live, so that you shouldn't have those kind of stereotypes when you are dealing with those people from other and in, right? So we are trying to make these responsible, educated people, and in order to do that, we are saying this mandation is necessary for those people, and we are saying that this is not actually infringing upon their bodily autonomy or something like that, because first of all, we're not mandating them to stay in those countries forever, right? We're just saying that you should stay for 1 year, and secondly, we are saying that if you want to take part in this education, then you have to do this because this is what the education is aiming for. So we are actually giving you a choice as well. And also, they have mentioned something about how there is a bias towards the developed countries, and so a lot of people hate, for example, Americans. First of all, I mentioned that some extremist countries where if Americans just go into the country, that American person may be assassinated. In those countries, American government is not stupid. They're going to actually ban their students from going to those kind of extremist countries. So those examples are too extreme. And secondly, aside from those extremist countries, if they have a certain bias towards developed countries, that is the exact reason why we want this mandation to happen. Because if the developed people go to the developing countries, not only the developed people, the students from developed countries will understand the people in the developing countries, but also the developing countries are going to understand more and more towards developed countries because they're going to work and study together, so they're going to talk about their different backgrounds and contexts. So this is actually the exact reason why we want to mandate this motion. So let us move on to our substantive. My first speaker has basically has brilliantly explained why this is needed and why this has to be mandatory. Right? So in some institutions in the current status quo, some countries actually mandate their students to go abroad for a year in any country, right? In those kind of situations, almost no student go to a developing country because, as they said, students tend to go to a developed country because they think it is going to help their job, it is going to help their job and further left, right? In those kind of situations, people do that because students are selfish. For example, people are selfish, right? So they see the short-term benefits and they see if they go there, that's going to be best for their job. What the education has to do is we have to give those people, we have to take those selfish people and teach them what the value of a community is, what the value that you have to learn as a person who is taking in the community. Right? Go ahead.
Okay, so if the students are so selfish, and actually there is no person who have interest in this developing country, why the reading material or audio material do exist in the current situation?
The reading materials exist because they have to do something, right? They have to do something for those selfish people, so that is the least thing that we can do right now. But if you mandate this, the action that we can do to make those selfish people turn into more community pro people is much higher because this is, making them just go there and having an actual experience more than just pro experience, right? Just waste my time. And also, the first speaker has told you how in the status quo the nationalists and the extremists are actually gaining power, and the refugee and the second generation immigration and the immigration problems are on rise, and also there are a lot of terrorism. So many people are seeing these like Muslims, for example, in just one stereotype that they are all terrorists and all that kind of stuff. So this is a very urgent problem, right? And if you don't do that, a lot of people just go to problems so wealthy countries and stuff like that. So therefore, no, thank you. Wealthy countries, and so therefore, if they go to wealthy countries and stuff, the stereotype will only be strengthened instead of being any mitigated. So therefore, the mandatory part is the only thing that we can do to solve this problem. And also, the first speaker has said that I'm going to mention the problem, the part about the developed country and the developing countries. International relations, right? These international relations between the developed country and the developing country is going to get better because the developing country can actually use this fact as a bargaining chip towards the developed country, right? So in the international relations, a lot of developing countries are in the weaker side, so that they don't have any bargaining chips, so they have to accept any condition that the developed country usually gives to them. But in these kind of situations, when this motion passes, because there are a whole lot of students coming into these developing countries, the developing countries can actually say, okay, we will do these for your students. Let me have this, or let me have that. Let our country have this. So these kind of bargaining can happen, and therefore the developed country can be less of a bully in this kind of situation. That is a huge benefit that we can take because of this motion. And also, we have And also, there are a lot of second generation immigrants that have parents who have came from all these developing countries, right? And a lot of people in developed countries don't understand those people, like not only second generation, but also first generation immigrants who came from developing countries, and they think they're too loud, that they're too cheap because they are always keen on their money and all this kind of stuff. If they go to a foreign country and see how hard they work and how hard their life is, they're gonna understand why they're so cheap and why they're so insisting upon a lot of issues. And also they can learn, and so they're gonna study abroad, so they're gonna learn how the students in those developing countries will think. Therefore, we take this. Thank you very much.
25 minutes here, but there will be a transition to reconstruct the case here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we support the current system of the studying abroad. For example, if you have interest in this country, if you find any kind of chance in this country, you can go there. And actually, these kind of people who have the intention to respect this kind of culture, who try to respect, who try to be familiar with this kind of culture, can go there even in the current situation. But the point here is those who never have any kind of interest in this kind of country cannot change their own mind just years of staying in this developing country. We think that the kind of people perception never dramatically change. Rather, we think it rather go against the benefit, go against what the government side try to say. Rather enhance the hatred because of inconvenience they experience in staying in this kind of country. Rather, we think it is rather counterproductive to mandate. We support the system which is purely based on their voluntary will. That's why we still oppose this motion. I can tell you two issues. First, is there any problem about the recognition of the developed countries' students? And also, even if that's true, whether this kind of policy can solve or not. Secondly, about the education system, why this form, especially why this kind of mandate system is not justifiable at all. So, moving on to my first issue about the problem, or whether we can solve or not. The problem from the opening government is very simple. Because we have no experience, because we just learn books or media, these kind of things, there is no understanding at all. First of all, we think it is so unrealistic that there is no one who have interest in this kind of developing countries issue, poverty or refugee or immigrant or this kind of thing. Because as I already told you, why the reading material or audio material do exist in the current situation is because actually there are some people who know that this is really problematic, people who have interest in this kind of issue. Because of the existence of this kind of people, that's why in the developed country, this kind of reading material or these kind of things they do exist. Further, no thank you. We think that because some people actually have interest in it, and actually these kind of people really try to read to the discourse of this kind of thing. That's why we think that even the current situation, because of these kind of people who already have interest in this kind of issue, because of these kind of people, still we think it is so unrealistic that there is no mutual there is no understanding toward this kind of developing country. Secondly, we think that in the current situation, without going there, still we can easily understand because of the development of media, we can easily receive the vivid images. For example, the picture of the refugees, house shape of refugees, and the picture of conflict in the Middle East. Because we know that we can easily and we already have the way to perceive these kind of vivid images or these vivid images. That's why we think that even you don't go there, still you have a massive opportunity to understand the hardship or these kind of area. Thirdly, we think that even so, the conclusion here is that even we don't go there, still we can easily understand. Still, we think there is no problem at all. Thirdly, we think that even there is a little bit problem, still it is counterproductive. But before moving on, yes.
Because the media coverage and the books covering is very biased, as it is eye-catching. Those are refugee problems and terrorist problems that are very eye-catching, and so they present it in that way. So isn't people going to understand it in that coverage of it?
Okay, but the point here is why the people who go there is not so subjective. Still, these kind of people are also biased. We think that even if you go there, still I couldn't understand why this kind of experience is much more important. Because if the bias is so problematic, also you are also biased, so we couldn't understand any difference at all. So having clarified the third issue, even there is a problem, still it is counterproductive no more. So because people really less interest. Because in general, people who have less interest in this kind of issue are forced to go to the developing country, and the experience is really terrible for them because they want to force them exposed to the reality of a developing country. The condition is not so good. For example, my partner creators, because of the difference of the climate, or because of the difference of the environment, or the culture, or these kind of things, what happened? How they feel how they feel after they stay in this kind of country. Then how they feel is simple. For them, it is it is natural for them to think that this kind of studying in abroad, this kind of system is really terrible experience because they already suffer from this kind of cough or the illness which is unique to this country because of the So naturally thinking, there is no reason to tackle this kind of issue. Just they feel negative images toward this country because they don't dramatically change their own perception. Just to feel that the experience of this country is really terrible. For those reasons, we think that they just feel negative images because of the inconvenience of this developing country. What will happen after they come back to the country? We think that for them, the country is really bad and really negative. They have the really negative images toward this country, and they rather enhance their stereotypes that because there is no reason to tackle down this kind of problem, they don't dramatically change their own perception. Or rather, we think that because of the absence of their own will, they are forced to go there. They are forced to exposed to this kind of hardship, really harsh situation. Because their perception, because of this kind of forcement, those who have no interest are forced to go there and they never change their own mind. Rather, it is counterproductive to promote the relationship between developing country and developing country. Because they mandate this system, it means all nations have same experience, really inconvenient experience. For those reasons, we think that it rather counterproductive. We support the current situation. Very productive of us.
Thank you, Deputy Leader of Opposition. That concludes the top half of the debate. I now invite the member of government to kick off the back half.
think that in the opening half of this debate, the debate has mainly been about one actor, the children who go from developed countries to these developing countries, right? But we think that there are more actors that need to be taken into consideration in this debate. For example, how are the children who meet those children from developed countries, those children in developing countries, what will happen to them? How will they change? And how will educational institutions change? And how will developing countries and developed countries change? And also, we would like to provide a justification about why it is okay to force children, even children who do not necessarily want to go abroad and participate in these year-long work or study abroad programs. So those are the two things I'd like to talk about. And first, I'd like to make a clarification about what kind of model we're introducing here. So first, what kind of school and workplace are we trying to get these children in? So first of all, we're not talking about sending Japanese students to China and making an only Japanese student school, right? We're talking about actually getting them to mix and study with the local students. And that's a clarification I want to make, so that these students can communicate frequently and that they will not be trapped inside their only national shell, right? And second, about safety. So we're not going to send these children, we're going to make sure that the institutions or the working places and the schools that these children are sent to are safe and are not on the edge of a cliff or something, if they are in safe conditions. And third, about it's compulsory, but we are not going to force children who have, for example, physical disabilities or diseases that make it difficult for them to go abroad. We're not going to force those sort of children to go abroad at the sake of their health. So I would start with one quick rebuttal against the government opposition side. So we talked a lot about media, how media and for instance, books and the news that we have about developing countries, how they can already give us a lot of information, right? But we think that this is very different from going out and experiencing these things by, the children actually going out and experiencing these things, right? Because media is edited. Media is biased, right? Media is something that somebody went and took photos or took notes of and edited in their own way and put their own biases into. And we think that it is important for children to go out and to these developing countries without that kind of bias set out before them, right? Because when you go to when you actually go to the local place and you talk to the local people without it being filtered out or without it being filtered or controlled, or you actually listen to the local people's voices, it gives you a perspective. And we think that we do concede that people can be biased, right? But we think that this is better than the media bias because at least it is up to you to decide how you want to think or how you want to feel. You have all the materials in your hands. What you decide to do with that is up to the child itself. And we think that kind of freedom of media is very important. So moving on to my arguments. First, about how the children are going to change how the children and the quality of education is going to change, how the children are going to change in developed countries and the developing countries. And second, about how we can the role of education and how this motion can be justified. First, about children. So we think that it's very important to send these children abroad during their childhood because children, they don't have a lot of life experiences, right? So they're much more flexible, they're much more absorbent of information or emotions, right? Emotions, right? So we think it's very important for them to go abroad during that time, during that emotionally mature, growing time, and experience new things. This is why we think it's important for them to experience these things during education, right? So first of all, what is going to happen to the children in developing countries? So we think that mainly two things are going to happen. First, the quality of education in developing countries is going to get better. And second, that in developed countries, the children's minds will become more open and they will have wider mindsets, right? So we think first of all, high quality education. So we think that when developed education institutions in developed countries send children to schools or working places in developing countries, right? They generally have an incentive to care about those institutions that the children are being sent to because they want the children, children of their own country to receive better education or have safer environments, right? So what they do is they try to invest more in those places to improve the quality of the education that those people, those children are being sent to, or the workplaces that those children are being sent to. And this eventually leads to a better education system or a better work system for the local people, right? is that these children in developing countries are blessed with more opportunities, and we think it's very important for them to receive more opportunities and high quality education, ladies and gentlemen, because when they have a larger range of choices, it means that they have a larger range of choices in which they can choose their own happiness, and we think that this is very important. And second, about the connection with others, and this goes for connections with others. So we think that in developing countries, there's generally like one very, it's very easy to be closed-minded because they don't have as much media resources as developed countries in general, right? So by like interacting with these children from developed countries, we think that we can open their minds and realize that maybe the lives that they are living are not the absolute, are not the norm. They can look at their own experiences more objectively, right? And yes.
Okay, there is a spectrum of the media, liberal to conservative. Why they can change their perception from experience, why they are not influenced by the media, they can also influenced by like a lot of news.
Okay. For example, Japanese media, obviously conservative media is stronger, so you're going to get less liberal media like influence, right? So we think that there is like you can be influenced by the dominant like culture in that country. And second, about having children in developed countries is they learn to be more sympathetic and they learn about more cultures, which we think is important in increasing equality. Quickly about the role of education and justification. So we think that the role of education is that we teach things about children, about things that they might need in the future, like math or like Japanese, right, or English, right? And we think that, and they said that like children who don't think that this sort of experience is not necessary for them shouldn't have to participate, right? But if you think about it, like math and Japanese, English, like a lot of children might not use these sort of subjects, right? But they still have to because it is probably like it is that's not that it is important for them. We think that this is necessary for this program. So, so like they talked about body autonomy, but if we're talking about children having absolute body autonomy, then parents cannot force their children to go to school at all. And we think that that is ridiculous. Like we think that if eventually, or maybe particularly, it could be beneficial for the children, the government does have the right to force children to go abroad, and we think that for these reasons, we proudly stand for the government.
Thank the member of government, and the member of opposition, and opposition, here.
To make something mandatory have very big burden, particularly in this case about education. Making something education mandatory and force people to learn developing countries will distort the freedom of education and distort allow their students of their freedom of study. So that's why we are proud to hold this motion. I have two things today. So firstly, how education should be, and secondly, how this motion will mandating to mandate transporting to European countries will rob students of their opportunity of education. And if I have time, I want to do some rebuttal on the other side. So then before moving on to my argument, I want to introduce you some counter model, or something like counter model. So our stance is like that. We are okay to encourage the students to study their developing countries, and also we will subsidize them. But the important point is that we will target it as their prestigious universities and we will subsidize only for those who have an incentive to work out, incentive to do something to help the developing countries, and that is the point. And also that we are happy to provide opportunity for those person like diplomats or politicians or the UN employee to go to the developing countries and study in the developing countries because they need that kind of experiences. why that kind of model is better than the government side? Because apparently we can only target it as only those people who have the clear incentive to help those developing countries. But secondly, that it can utilize the limited resource more efficiently. So because in the government side, they are including all students, so including the not so smart or not so much incentive to help the developing countries. So to pay those students a lot of money is the waste of money. So that's why our counter model is better than their side of the house. So moving on to my argument. Firstly, how education should be. So originally, what is the role of the education? I have two things to say. Firstly, their first goal is to provide children the decent education or common sense to be live in their society and live on their own. So to achieve that such kind of goals, we are providing all children the compulsory education and make them learn about the basic calculation or basic literature or such kind of things, because that is necessary for the student to live in the society. However, about this version, about the developing countries, that is not necessary for those every single children. So. And also the government side said that it is necessary to enlighten the children to notice about the problems in the developing countries. However, we are at the status quo, we are sufficiently successfully doing that, because when we open the book about the society, there are many problems about developing countries. So then, if those children really have the incentive that they will notice about such kind of problems and then be enlightened and to try to study about the international such kind of relationship and try to help the developing country in the future. So that we think that the status quo is enough to help the people. But secondly, too, the role of education is to provide children the free opportunity to study about what they want to study. So there are a variety of desire of those children about what they want to study, what they want to major in their future. But to cater the big government, cater the various departments in the university, for example, law or medicine or physics or such kind of things. So and also in the elementary school we teach every academic sphere to find which is the which kind of sphere that those children have more interested in. So then, however, on the government side, what they are doing is to push only one field to those children, just because the government thinks that is beneficial for the children or for the international relationships. So the government ignoring opinion, limiting the opportunity for the children and pushing their value to those children, and also that they are so. And the government are saying that you have to do something useful to work for the developing countries. However, so first that is not true, because it should be up to each individuals, but also that there are many other ways to work for others, for those children. So aside from helping those developing countries, there are many ways to work for society. For example, to work as a doctor or to become a politician and to try to manage the domestic country or something like that. So that choice should be up to each individual. Okay.
The goal of education is only to give students free opportunity to say whatever they want, but it is also to make those students into an educated person, so that person is going to get along with a lot of other people in the community, and that person is going to be beneficial to the community as well. That is also the goal of education. That is why the government gives money for the education to a lot of people, right? Like for those kind of, but that kind of.
Okay. So then why? That should be in the form of the studying in European countries, and why government should force them to do that. So I cannot see their point. And secondly, how this motion will distort rob the student of the opportunity of education. The realistic description. I want to serve you the realistic description of their world. So the most problem of the government side plan is that it costs too much. So because it is mandatory, it includes all students in that country. So and also the government have to cater the airplane or the place to stay or that such kind of things. The government have to pay for those all costs. So that's why it will cost 1 billion or more money. So then that where that kind of money comes from? That is from the Ministry of Education. So then what will be sacrificed? So that is the age to encourage other academic fields, for example, literature, physics, or chemical, or other kind of academic fields. So that's why you cannot, because of lack of money, that you cannot continue your study. You have to give up because of the government preference to helping the developing countries. So that's why such kind of freedom of education will be distorted, blocked off by their models. That's what we are proud to propose.
Government to close on to speak the site up.
It is so sad that all of the sides, except causing government, are really sticking to really narrow and shallow and really unacceptable arguments about how whether this program can maybe achieve the benefits for the maybe children in developed countries, right? But whether this program can be beneficial or not is really unacceptable. On the other hand, as what the contribution coming from causing government is like we tell you a really tangible outcome coming from this program. That is to say, we can enlighten the children in developing countries thanks to the program. That is also really important in this debate because the value and also maybe quality of children is really important. It is such kind of value is consensus in this debate. Also, we have to focus on that kind of children, vulnerable children in developing countries. This is why our program, our site was very compared with any kind of size. So proudly backed up and proposed. Mainly two arguments coming from government speaker. Now, first of all, about how children in developing countries can enjoy good educational environment thanks to this program. And second of all, so how our kind of main case Novice, maybe children in developed country, so how it can be beneficial for children, and even if not individualized, it's alright. And one clarification to the closing of the right. So first of all, they say about maybe the children should study what they want to study, right? But first of all, it's not mutually exclusive. Even you are maybe going to a different country, also you can actualize maybe some stuff they want to do studying philosophy and kind of things. In our case, we never understand why there is so difference between two countries, right? To situation. And second of all, maybe if they are really prioritizing this value, also they have to admit, or they have to maybe ban all the compulsory education, right? Because in compulsory education, such kind of compulsory education spare a lot of time for children. In our case, also they cannot what they want to do because of this compulsory education. So why not put for crowding opposition? And why compulsory education is alright, and why this experience is not alright, right? So now let's move on to my first argument for yes.
So if the investment is necessary, we can utilize this kind of money instead of sending children who are not interested in this kind of issue.
Okay, I will already. Okay, that's all. My first argument. Why usually developed countries doesn't have any incentives to care about children in developing countries? Just because usually that such kind of progress is not is not relevant to their situation, to their benefits, right? Because if they can maybe save all children in developing country, that cannot be a direct benefit for that kind of country, right? No sense. In the occasion, and also a developed country have massive incentive to prioritize another thing, for example, maybe welfare and maybe political corruption, any kind of thing. In that occasion, usually such developed country doesn't have incentive to maybe care about such kind of situation at all. On the other hand, what happened in our product? So first of all, about the introduction of good systems, my partner Claudia told you. Because not only such kind of moral maybe sphere, but also what we have to say is like nonsense about. So if the parents have to send their children to the other country, to the developed country, they always care about the safety, they always care about good education in that country, and also any kind of things, right? In that case, such parents could have massive incentive to adjust the environment in developing countries. And on occasion, children who also study in such kind of situation can also be blessed with such kind of good environment thanks to this program, right? It's really, really tangible outcome coming from closing a program. And also, many schools have massive incentive to make better and better environment in developing countries because they can help, if they can maybe set a good environment, maybe they can maybe usually invite a lot of children into their private schools and maybe as a maybe form of competition and a form of propaganda, right? And no sex. Another second, communication. Also, as my partner colleague told you, if maybe such kind of children can communicate with the people coming from developed country, usually such kind of children from developed country are really more intelligent to such kind of children. In developing country, they can usually enjoy good education. Right? No sex, no. In that case, really. So if they can communicate, they can have such kind of chances. Usually, also such children in developing country can enjoy such kind of any kind of maybe things that coming from children in developing countries, right? And also same analysis, what happened? But first of all, also they can also have a lot of choices thanks to this program, right? Because if they can communicate with other people, if they can know new things that they can never know in our occasion, usually they can maybe have a lot of choices. Why that such kind of massive choice is really important? Just because usually in order to be happy, usually we make a choice in decision for our future, right? On the other hand, if we can have a variety of choices there, we can use the most suitable way for yourself. This is why the variety of choice is really, really important for children ever. And no sex. And second of all, and also, if they can get good quality education, they can comfortably be intelligent, they can comfortably be skilled. In that occasion, they can have more chances to maybe go to the company, go to good university, and anything else. Such kind of aspect is really, really important for children in developing country in order to fulfill their life, in order to end their life, enjoy their lives anymore. And in the practical aspect, this argument is really, really tangible and available compared with bigger arguments coming from opposition side. This is why this argument is really important. Now let's move to the second argument, nonsense about beneficial learning. So usually we have two actors in the children in developed country. But first of all, children who have interest on maybe such kind of issues in developing country. And second of all, children who doesn't have any interest on such kind of things, right? And maybe such kind of children with interest doesn't care in this debate, right? And second of all, but on the other hand, what we have to care here is that the children who doesn't have any interest on such kind of matters in the European country, right? On the other hand, so the today's opposition side continuously saying, well, we can provide information so that they can be elected, right? On the other hand, that's usually if people access to the information, usually people have incentives to access such kind of information. In that case, if the children doesn't have any interest only, the children never access it. This is why they usually continuously do discrimination. They are still in the case of stereotype, in the case of discrimination, any kind of things, right? In that case, such kind of goals coming from opposition side is really, really meaningless. And on that, furthermore, as I said in my introduction, it's really, really unacceptable. Right? Whether children can maybe enjoy or not in the big country. In that case, what we're saying, as my partner colleague told you, in education, it's true. Compulsory education is sometimes not beneficial for some children, but such kind of, but they think it is not necessary. It's really, really arbitrary. Right? So in that case, we believe, on the other hand, our partner colleague told you, and also all this side, on nothing told you, this such kind of program has a really obvious and maybe objective and benefits for children, and that is really possibly beneficial for children in the aspect of experiences, in the aspect of neutral understanding, anything else. In our case, we believe our program is much bigger in order to protect not only children in developed country, but also make children in developed country be more enjoyable, be really enjoy their life. This is probably like to propose.
about whether this program can contribute to the international relationship or not. However, as my partner already clearly told you that this debate is about whether this program can contribute the quality of the education for the student in the developed country. So please, our team is the only team clearly show you which side can fulfill the quality of the education in a developed country. So we can take this debate. So, but before moving on to the main point, I have mainly three rebuttal to the government side. Firstly, opening government was totally saying that the opening government and the closing government was totally saying that was totally believe in the workability of this program. However, as my partner already told you that without this workability, if the analysis that just staying in a developing country just in a year can successfully contribute to the international relationship, there is a few confusion between the countries because in Japan even under the status quo in Japan there are a lot of students who study abroad. However, although they actively go to the developing country, few students can get precious experiment through a year. So if the analysis is true, there is so the conclusion here is that the analysis is without this analysis and without the workability of their model of this program to begin with, and also second of all, they said second of all, the closing government was talking about the compulsory education. So we'd like to welcome the differentiate compulsory education and this program. So what's the difference between the compulsory education and this program? The compulsory education exists for the student. Firstly, it exists for students to get knowledge to have the fundamental life. And the second of all, the compulsory education exists for the student to choose what kind of study they want to learn. However, unfortunately, this program forces children to learn a single matter in the developing country. So the problem here is that we oppose this program because this program limit the interest of the children and this is the biggest difference between the compulsory education and this program. So we oppose we're happy to have the compulsory education, but we oppose this program. So and third of all, the rebuttal against the government side, as my partner already told you that we can't understand why the government forces children to major in the one single topic in a year. So as I already told you that we cannot understand why the government side is assuming understanding international relationship
is the purely beneficial for the student in the developed country to the extent they cost 1 year in other country and we cannot understand why the government have the justification to force the student to one single value judgment just because the existence of the xenophobia or nationalism. Under the status quo, there are tons of the problem to be solved in the society. For example, the climate change, or financial problems. So the conclusion here is that there are a lot of type of the student. So that is to say there are the students they don't want to learn about international relationship, but there are the students who would like to. Okay, I'll take it.
Okay, so you justify compulsory education by saying it creates a way of children realizing what they're interested in, right? In that case, how can you say that if this study, like year-long work program, creates a way for children to realize they're interested in something? How can you say it is unjustified?
Okay, I'll explain if I have enough time. So the conclusion here is that there are the students who like to learn the other thing, would like to learn the other thing. So the given that the government has any justification to force the student to learn a single topic. For those reasons that we are the only actors who with successfully show which side can provide a better quality education for the student in developed countries. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Schmidt, and all the debaters for a great debate. Right, you all shake hands, and then everyone please.